The top business stories live from the Sky News City studio. Asda reveals it's facing increased interest payments of at least £30 million from February as loans become due. Knoops, the chocolate drink specialist, announces plans to double in size during the next year. I'll hear from the chief executive. Plus, why the UK telecoms market might be falling behind its global counterparts. Good afternoon, this is Business Live with me, Ian King. One of Asda's co-owners has revealed that the supermarket faces increased interest payments of at least £30 million from February as loans become due. Billionaire brothers Mohsen and Zubair Issa bought the Asda chain from Walmart in 2021 in a heavily leveraged buyout. Speaking to the Business and Trade Committee earlier today, Mohsen Issa told MPs that despite borrowing costs increasing, the supermarket group was stable and financially sound.
The leverage at the start of the year was at 4.2 times. With September quarter end, that came down to 3.8 times, and that trajectory is to go down even further by the end of this year. And at the same time as us investing in colleague pay and customer pricing, loyalty, etc. So the business is highly cash generative.
Well, our business correspondent Paul Kelso has been following proceedings. Paul, Asda has been losing market share of late. This perhaps helps explain why.
Yes, indeed. This was a really interesting moment for not just for retail watchers, but the wider business community. Mohsen Issa, the man who we understand is hands-on of the two billionaire Issa brothers at Asda, a formidable entrepreneur. They went from a single petrol forecourt to this huge retail empire, but probably by his own admission, not a great communicator. He brought a phalanx of executives with him to help set out the company's position, particularly in relation to the debt, to the leverage that was taken on when they bought the company back in 2021, and try and reassure MPs, some more sceptical than others, that the rise in borrowing costs is not going to undermine the stability of the company. His chief financial officer did concede that he said there's £4.2 billion of leverage within the company group. Not entirely clear if there's more outside the 16 holding companies that exist above Asda's operating company. He did say that of that £4.2 billion, £500 million is a floating note that will become due in February, at which point borrowing costs will rise by at least £30 million. Small beer, you might think, when it's a company generating revenue in excess of £1 billion. But nevertheless, there is this sense that the opacity of the company's structure and this heavily reliance on leverage makes Asda a special case. The pair of them, Mohsen Issa and his chief financial officer, insisted that the company was neither opaque nor complex. I'm afraid even as a partial layman watching them over for more than an hour, every word they said rather reinforced the fact that by many standards, Asda is exactly that.
OK, thanks, Paul. Now, Knoops, the chocolate drink specialist, has announced plans to double in size during the next year after completing an £8.3 million fundraising last month. The company, which was the official brand partner of the recent film Wonka, today reported sales of £4.4 million for the year to the end of March, up 67% on the previous 12 months, and growth has since accelerated. Sales in the 6 months to the end of September were up 90% on the same period last year. Well, joining me now is William Gordon-Harris. He's Executive Chairman and Chief Executive of Knoops. William, good to see you. How do sales break down these days between online and in-store?
Good evening, Ian. So online and in-store, the stores are the main generator of the category, as it were, but flake sales, which are our at-home offering, so you could have your Knoops chocolate drinks at home, are the biggest growth part of the business now, and they're accelerating faster. I can tell you that this month to date, we're up 700% on flake sales from last year, which is just truly astonishing. It seems that there's no end in sight to the appetite for the quality hot chocolate drinks and cold chocolate drinks that Knoops brings to the market. The stores are growing, all of them, like for like, in quite an unprecedented way. Rye is now 10 years old, but I got involved in the company 4 years ago. And those stores are, across the board, all our stores are growing like for like, but at around 20% per annum.
Which are the locations that you're targeting for new openings?
So we started. Rye was founded in. So Knoops was founded in Rye. in East Sussex in 2013. I got involved in the business in 2019, and we opened in London. We have sub-sites in central London, Kensington, Knightsbridge, Chelsea, Covent Garden, Portobello. But we're opening further afield, and we're really enjoying that. We've just opened in Chester, which has been an excellent opening. Manchester, got some sites opening identified in York, Liverpool. Got 2 in construction at the moment in Edinburgh. And we're seeing across the board, down in the West Country in Bath, we've got an Exeter opening shortly. Bath has been an excellent opening. Recently opened in Guildford. Across the board, all the stores have a universal demand from local consumers, be it university towns, mothers with children, parents, you name it.
How long does a new store take to pay for itself?
So the stores have a slight range, but we're finding that landlords have now really understood that Knoops is a real brand that is an anchor brand in F&B, and therefore we're getting a lot of incentive from landlords who are attracting us, which further enhances the payback. But the payback can be down to 20 months on total payback of the store. We've had a fantastic opening in Manchester, for example, which really has been even faster than that. Fantastic results.
Now, you're profitable at an EBITDA level, which obviously strips out interest and amortisation. What about at a pre-tax level? How quickly would you anticipate being profitable there?
Well, by the end of our financial year, which is 31st of March, the whole group will be profitable on all levels. We don't hold any debt at all, and we're preparing now for the scale up from what's been the three and a half years of startup. It was testing the market, seeing whether it was a new category, creating that category, disrupting, and then now rolling out at pace, putting all our systems into place. So we've got a very large central team ready to go. But even with that large central team, we're profitable at the 20-store level, both on pre-tax and PBT.
William, you're not short of competition. I mean, all of the main coffee chains sell hot chocolate now. What do you put the success of the business down to?
Well, I'll turn it on its head, and I'd say that every one of the coffee chains is trying to differentiate themselves within that market, and they all offer chocolate as a secondary product. If you see Jens, our founder, as a sommelier of chocolate and see the 21 flavors on the board, therein lies our moat. We have something for everybody, from the sweet flavors in the lower scales of cacao to the bitter and very tasty areas on the higher level of the board, and this means we have something for everyone. We also sell great coffee, and therefore we've turned the whole model on its head. And we believe that we are the go-to place for a moment. We describe coffee as selling addiction, but Knoops is selling love. And that connection now is so important in the marketplace for people to have a moment, whether it's at university, as fresh as dating, or enjoying some time with your children, or a new friend or old friend catching up. And that's what Knoops is about. And coffee is a very, very, very saturated market, and going in and creating a new one is why we feel that we don't actually have any specific competition with the authority. And that's why Wonka and Warner Brothers came to us to find a drinks partner here in the UK, because there isn't an alternative. And that is very surprising to me. And it was very surprising to me when I came in to get involved in this business, that there wasn't any market for what is a hugely deep and wide marketplace, larger than coffee in its market size.
OK, William, got to leave it there, I'm afraid. Good to talk to you this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ian. Take care. Bye.
Some other business news stories for you now. BP has reportedly listed 3 internal candidates to be its next chief executive. According to Reuters, they include Murray Auchincloss, the chief financial officer and currently the interim CEO. Also listed are Carol Howe, she's BP's current head of trading and shipping, and Emma Delaney, head of customers and products. External candidates are also said to be under consideration. Well, BP has been without a chief executive since Bernard Looney stepped down in September after admitting he was not open with the oil majors board about his past relationships. Toshiba, one of the most famous names in Japanese business, will disappear from the Tokyo Stock Exchange tomorrow after 74 years. The industrial conglomerate shares will be delisted following its $14 billion takeover by a consortium of investors led by the private equity firm Japan Industrial Partners. Once one of Japan's biggest companies, Toshiba was engulfed in an accounting scandal in 2015, since when it's been besieged by activist investors and come close to bankruptcy. And the fashion retailer Superdry lost more than a quarter of its stock market value at one point this morning after warning that profits for the year will be lower than expectations. Shares of Superdry fell by as much as 28% at one point after it said that during the 26 weeks to the 28th of October, its retail sales were down 13.1% on the same period last year, while its wholesale sales were down by 41.1%. Superdry blamed a challenging consumer retail market and abnormally mild autumn weather, which resulted in a delayed uptake of its autumn and winter collection. Just a bit of breaking news to bring you. A lot of people I know will be interested in this. Nottingham Forest Football Club have sacked the club's manager, Steve Cooper, obviously the man that took Forest into the Premier League after more than 2 decades out of it. Steve Cooper parting company with the City Grand after a fairly dismal set of results recently. No doubt we'll have more on that throughout the evening here on Sky News. Now, it's been a tough year for the UK's telecoms sector amid disruption as operators strip Huawei equipment from their core 5G networks and rows over inflation-linked mid-contract price increases. TalkTalk has been forced to break itself up as it grapples with a £1.1 billion debt pile, while 2 more operators, Vodafone UK and 3 UK, hope to merge because the market is so competitive they cannot cover their cost of capital. Meanwhile, research from the equipment maker Ericsson suggests the UK telco market is falling behind its global counterparts. Well, joining me now is Catherine Ainley. She's Ericsson's UK and Ireland Chief Executive. Catherine, welcome to you. Why do you say that the UK is falling behind the competition?
Hello, and thank you for inviting me today. So I think it's more about the UK is kind of in the middle of the pack. We see that it's 50th globally. So it's not terrible, but actually I think the UK should be aiming for much better than that.
Is the industry sufficiently investing in 5G rollouts?
So we see, in fact, there's news out from Ofcom this morning that we see 5G is at about 90% across the UK. So coverage is good, really good now. But what we'd like to see is more quality. So the key thing we're looking for is mid-band coverage, which gives you that real depth of quality. And that's at between about 30 to 60%, depending on the operator. And that's what we're really pushing to get that out.
Has the disruption caused by having to strip out Huawei been overstated?
I mean, I think for the UK, that's quite old news now. Everyone's really focused looking forward. The rollouts are well underway. And actually, the UK is cracking on, 50th, faster than a lot of countries, but could be better. And what we really want to see is you can get benefits across the UK to the economy and to consumers. The UK government figures show the level of benefit to the UK economy is huge.
So what's holding people back?
It's a combination of factors. It's been a few years impacted by COVID, by planning laws, and really it needs the whole industry to come together. But the most important thing is that we see businesses and consumer really embrace what you can do with 5G. I mean, actually, it has the potential to change every part of your life, from the way factories operate, manufacturing, mining, to the way we do gaming, and it will properly change people's lives.
But I'm really struck by the research that you published, which suggests that consumer satisfaction in particular is way, way lower here than in, say, the United States. Yeah,
it is. So our research showed that about 36% of UK consumers are very satisfied with 5G, whereas that's over 50%, 53% in the US. And exactly that. We're 5 years, or next year it'll be 5 years since 5G was launched. And you're absolutely right. What we need to do now is drive to that quality of 5G coverage, and that will then bring that benefits. It's faster, more secure and more immediate as well.
What about returns in the sector? Do you think Vodafone UK has a point when it's arguing to be allowed to merge with 3?
Well, what we see is when you look particularly across Europe, to get that level of return on capital and to get that level of investment, we do see there is really a need for consolidation. We don't tend to look at specific markets sort of in detail, but actually it is a big investment, and therefore to get that level of investment, we do see that there probably needs to be fewer players in some of the markets.
That would be bad for you, though, wouldn't it? If there are fewer players bidding against each other for your equipment, that's a problem, isn't it?
Well, this is about a long-term view, and particularly if you look to the UK, what we really want to see is better, faster rollout and a better outcome for the UK, and then everybody wins. But in particular, the UK economy wins, and individuals and consumers will win as well from that connectivity.
How much has your business benefited from the fact that basically Huawei have been slung out of the UK?
I mean, I'd say that's quite old news in the UK now. So we're really looking forward. I mean, that's a decision that was made a number of years ago. In fact, before I even started Ericsson. So we're all looking forward, and actually now all about delivering for the UK.
Now, lest we forget, I mean, by the end of the decade, we're probably going to be talking about 6G, which I know you've put a lot of investment into already. What are going to be the benefits of 6G versus 5G?
Yeah, and 6G is exciting, but I mean, just to keep it in context, that is a number of years off. So my first plea would be, actually, we've all got to embrace 5G, what we can do with it, and the innovation that comes around it. We saw 4G really change the sector. It brought things like Uber, Airbnb onto our smartphones and really made smartphones the things that they are now. 6G is 6, 7, 10 years off, and we are only beginning to see what we will do with that, but it'll take us to a whole new level of connectivity.
Oh, well, let's hope we can talk about it in future. Catherine, good to see you this afternoon.
Thank you.
Still to come here on Business Live, we'll have a look at how the markets have done this Tuesday afternoon. Don't go away.
Five of us have made it out of the car.
Welcome to Backstage, the film and TV podcast.
Slide yemiyoruz. Slide'leri. Fly Emirates. Fly better. Thank you.
Well, the pound has had a very strong session on the foreign exchange markets ahead of tomorrow's inflation figures, which I suspect will confirm that the Bank of England may be slower than others in cutting interest rates next year. Sterling remains close to the 4-month high it hit against the US dollar last week, up nearly 0.9%. That's also up by a third of 1% or so against the euro. This is how the equity markets are finished up in Europe. All the main continental European indices finishing higher amid growing confidence on the timing of ECB rate cuts. Talking points this afternoon include Lufthansa, which has finished up 1.25% in Frankfurt after confirming a major new planes order from Airbus and Boeing. Well, here in London, not so exciting for the FTSE 100. That is partly because of the gains in the pound, which obviously hit the dollar and euro earners to an extent. FTSE up nonetheless by a third of 1%, with their mining heavyweights lending support. In terms of the leading faller, well, that was Burberry on the back of some adverse broker comment this afternoon, off 2%. Outside the FTSE, the banknote and passport supplier De La Rue is off by 5% after half-year losses widened, while the music royalties investor Hypnosis Songs Fund is off 1.5% after delaying publication of its results. Over on Wall Street, the three main stock indices have again opened to the upside. If the Dow rises today, it will mark a fifth straight record close. Talking points this afternoon on Wall Street include Affirm, that buy now, pay later specialist is ahead by some 15% after expanding a partnership with Walmart. As for the oil price, well, that has continued to grind higher amid concerns on what attacks on vessels in the Red Sea may mean for supplies. Barrel of Brent crude currently changing hands at $79.32 a barrel. That's up 1.75%. Well, joining me this afternoon is Lucy Cootes, Investment Director at JM Fin. Lucy, great to see you as ever. Let's start with the situation in the Red Sea, because it seems to me a lot of people can't make up their mind on what this is going to mean for the oil price. For example, Goldman Sachs, I see, put a note out this afternoon saying, calm down, everyone.
Yeah, it is difficult. And what we are seeing is, as you rightly said, the oil price is slightly higher today. But we can see things are escalating. So you're getting responses from major shipping companies, Maersk, Hapag-Lloyd, and now the Mediterranean Shipping Company, which is one of the world's largest. And what this really means for trade, not only oil and gas, but also consumer goods, because 12% of our goods travels through this route. The shipping route comes, links the Indian Ocean through to the Red Sea, through the Suez Canal, and into the Mediterranean. So you can see, it cuts that journey by some 3,500 nautical miles, which is 10 days. And my concern is a little bit more lagged, in the sense, is this going to be inflationary? Because we're not just talking about oil and gas supply. We've got our supplies for Christmas, which I think probably is sort of the media's concern. But certainly come January, are we going to see more lagged effect? And are we going to have a supply problem?
I have seen it suggested, though, Lucy, that actually this could be beneficial for inflation in Europe on the basis that certain goods that were being shipped from the United States may now, or the east coast of the United States, may now be diverted from Asia to Europe because of these issues.
Yeah, we could see supply met, sort of demands met elsewhere. You're quite right with that. But it's quite interesting. We've got a problem with the Suez Canal, and we've got also a problem with drought in the Panama Canal. And these routes do speed up delivery. So I suspect we could have a problem, and I think it's something we need to keep an eye on. Certainly the gilt market isn't worried. I think that's probably supported by the strong pound today. So gilt prices are not sort of forecasting sort of higher interest rates or anything like that. So it's just something that I think investors need to be watchful for.
You mentioned the strength of the pound there, Lucy. What do you put that down to? Is it the fact that people are now assuming the bank is going to be way behind the ECB and the Fed in terms of rate cuts next year?
Quite possibly. I mean, I think we do have a higher rate of inflation than the US or Europe. And so I think rates may remain higher for longer. But obviously what we don't want to see, and I think what we spoke about last week, was, we don't really want to sort of see the country fall into recession. I think technically, if we look now, we are probably in recession, but we won't know that until Q1 when the numbers come out, because everything is lagged on data. And then hopefully we'll be out of recession by the time we get the data that we're in recession now, perversely. And
yeah,
I'm sure you've sort of seen as well. We spoke last week about Bernard Looney and BP, but it's good to see that we've now got a short list of candidates for the new CEO, where we've got the interim one now. I think he's the front runner. But we've also got one of the candidates is Carol Howell, who heads up their trade and shipping. So I think she's probably pretty busy at the moment.
That would be extraordinary, though, wouldn't it? I mean, none of the oil majors have ever had a woman CEO. I mean, BP would be breaking new ground here.
Absolutely, and it's good news. And then the other candidate is Emma Delaney. Again, she heads up customers and products for BP. So it would be, obviously, from my perspective personally, it'd be really good to see a woman head up an oil major.
Absolutely. Now, before I let you go, quick thought on what Michael Gove said today on house building. Any repercussions for the builders here?
No, I mean, share prices haven't responded at all, very sort of mildly, hardly any response. I mean, I think it's really a zero-sum game. I can't see those housing supply that being unblocked. I think the positive catalyst will be in the future when we may have a change of government and policy may change. And certainly Labour has put forward some easing of that bottleneck. So we may see more change then. I think there's an awful lot of I think it's just no change, to be honest, Ian.
OK, Lucy, got to leave it there. Great to see you as ever. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it from me. I'm back tomorrow at 11:30. Hope to see you then. Kamali's up next. Stay tuned. Cheerio.